Yeah.
Thanks.
You're the first to get woo.
I feel honored. Yeah. So I hope you're going to choose one. It was a long intro, but yes. So my name is Eduards Timofejevs. I'm very proud to represent Click's team here today. So let's warm up with very simple question. How many of you know by heart your account number? Please raise your hands. Nice. More than I expected, actually. And your card number and CVV code? Oh, you have good memory. So, and how many of you know your phone number by heart? It's more than half. I mean, basically everybody. So, yes, today I wanted to talk about our learnings on the way on exploring e-commerce. So, let's start. We're talking about e-commerce market that's expected to grow by around 40% in next 3 years, reaching around 1.7 billion euros. So it's a good market to be into with all the trends, including more and more physical merchants and big players moving into e-commerce. So with this positive outlook, we took a deep dive in e-commerce, and more specifically in the last part of purchase funnel, meaning the purchase itself, the payment, checkout, and potential loyalty in case the previous steps are done well. So to better understand the buyers, the merchant side, what are they thinking, what are they feeling, what do they like, what do they dislike, we took more than 2,000 online questionnaires, questioning people about various topics, and did more than 100 user tests / user interviews. And summarizing it all up, this quantitative and qualitative feedback both from users and merchants, we can summarize the shortest way we can summarize it. We have lost revenue on the merchant side and frustrated users on the other side. So let's dig a bit deeper in this topic. So the first one, which might differ between the merchants, between the markets, but the overall trend is that 2/3 of the carts in the e-commerce are abandoned. Basically, you get the interest from the users, but they 2/3 of them don't buy the item at the end. And the impact on the business, it's easy calculatable, and it's huge. Of course, we're not saying you can reach like 100% drop-off unless you get iPhone 1 month before official release or sell tickets to Dziesmu svētki. Okay, then you're in a good place as a seller. But overall, there's definitely a place for improvement. After seeing this merchant side of this problem, if you could say so we dig deeper and then looked and asked various questions to the buyers, to the other side, and we saw a big correlation. Basically, only 12%, basically 1 in 10 people, said that they're like fully satisfied. They didn't have had any frustrations while buying online. So 90% almost mentioned at least one frustration they have. If not in all cases when they're buying something, then in at least some, and 60 mentioned 2 or more. Then we kept on looking. Next finding we had is that this might be a relatively new trend, but basically we see that probably we ourselves as well are increasingly unwilling to remember another login, another password. Like we all have probably at least 5-10 accounts in the work, private email, PIN codes, card codes. So there's just too much of them. And what it has led to is that users turn to guest checkouts. The interesting moments we had in a user test, for example, a lady, she's buying 2 or 3 times a month contact lenses, and she's still every time entering all the information because she doesn't want to create an account. She just realized that basically she comes back in 2 or 3 weeks even. She doesn't remember the email she's used to register. She doesn't remember the password. She has to reset everything, and it's a mess. So she's willing to do all the time all the information input the same each time over and over. Another interesting finding we got from user interviews and these online questionnaires we did, that 45% of the buyers are unsure about the merchant. First thing, whether the item showed online is the same you're going to receive, and even more so, if something will go wrong, it will be broken at work or something, will the merchant really reply, help you out, or just disappear and ignore you? And then you have to call to Best or some other and just go on TV to blame these e-coms. Another interesting topic, I mean, mostly here we are from the payment industry, we understand much better how it really works, but what we found in these user interviews is that people perceive things differently than they actually work. So we know technically if the card processing is done correctly with all the certificates and everything, it's safe and you don't give your card data to the merchants. But what we see how users see it is basically I go to ecom, I choose what I want to buy, then I enter my card data, they are given to the merchant, and then he's processing and taking the money. Basically, it's not how actually it works in most cases, but this is how they see it. And this is the case when they see a store, they would buy something for the better price or just better product, but they just are not, let's say, sure that it will work out and that the card data is safe. So they either use cash, basically order and then go to the store and then pay for it, or they just go to another store where they have some other payment methods they trust. Another interesting finding. So we did user tests with interfaces of both locally available payment methods and methods available which are considered like global successes. We did it both with the branding on, basically so the users know it's, I'm not going to name them, but some solutions popular in Western Europe, for example, or Scandinavia, and both also like anonymous, so it's basically like just company A, but the interface is as it should be. And we found that this is one of the cases when less is not always more. So in some cases, shorter user interface caused some feeling of insecurity for the people. Basically, we try to think what are the reasons, and in some cases, maybe it's just, I don't know, historical heritage that we're afraid that somebody will do something bad to us or something. But this is different for our local market, and this is what we need to take into account when developing solutions for the local market. So very shortly about impact from regulation. So there's probably many more people in this conference who can speak very specifically about very detailed impact on these things from regulatory perspective, but we want to look like a very kind of basic user perception level, if you could say so. So first, GDPR, like this big buzzword, maybe not anymore, but at least for last previous years, it was kind of a buzzword. So what we really saw in user tests that users are much more protective about their data than before. They know that they kind of own and should be in control. So even while developing the ideas, we saw that the increasing concern about card data and personal data. So this is kind of on one side good thing from the user perspective. On the other hand, we have to spend much more effort on explaining how it's going to be used, do it in a user-friendly way to make users feel safe. Another one, PSD2. So basically, we maybe received emails that, I don't know, if you order Vault, you will have to use 3D Secure for bigger purchases. So what it kind of does at the first, it says that less transactions will be very frictionless. On the other hand, we have 3D Secure 2.0, which we see basically as another way how users' interface and experience will become better, basically. So more data points for decisions and better user interface to do the 3D Secure. So it will be less and less of a problem for the users. So we talked a lot about things what wrong or users dislike or where are the problems. So we also try to just ask basically, so what do you like? What is the experience you would like to see and what you enjoy? And 9 out of 10 mentioned the big three, Amazon, Ali, and eBay. When we ask basically, why do you like them? Why do you think it's the best buying and checkout experience? So the top 3 things mentioned by them was checkout in few taps, basically no long forms, basically that you do it once, don't have to do it again, and that there's basically one solution serving many sellers. Another finding which we had, especially about Ali and eBay, is basically that still people are considering it mostly for small purchases, like phone cases, earphones, and there's still, I mean, it's always depends on the person, but overall, they're not using it for like bigger purchases like TVs and stuff like that. So there's still a good market of for local vendors and merchants. So continuing about these big three, the big global players, are the big players coming in e-commerce? And I think here is the question. Basically, even myself, maybe I made a mistake. I should have written when the big players are coming to the market. So we see that Amazon opened another facility warehouse in Poland, which one of the main focus being going into the, let's say, this region and supporting local merchants, also going global. So it's just clear that it's a matter of time when they would enter also Baltics as well. We also see Ali opening physical stores in Europe. There's one in Madrid, and I think very soon there will be another one in Barcelona, and they're looking Russia as one of the next markets they're going to. So basically we have very, very big players with very, very deep pockets coming to the market. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, so we saw that there's still very, very significant market for like bigger items you don't want to ship around half of the world. And but we see that the big players with better UX, with this one-click checkouts, are coming, and the question is who will be able to compete. So the big merchants local maybe have relatively deeper pockets, so they can go and do some quick changes, heavy aggressive marketing. But for this rest, for this middle and smaller merchants, it might be challenging. So basically, if they don't try to improve on their user experience. So basically, few ways how we discussed and how merchants and how we see how can you do it. The first two are basically the most obvious ones, if you could say so. So first one is just start selling on big platforms. The question how it fits with your business strategy, basically, because these stores are mostly the wider world, and in many cases, Latvian merchants or Baltic merchants want to focus very heavily on local market. In most cases, you have less control over UX. It might be a good thing, a bad thing. It depends on the merchant. On average, you have high commissions. In some cases, they are simple high. In some cases, they seem lower, but they're very complicated. So you have hard mathematics basics to understand how much will you actually get at the end, and basically what are your margins. And in many cases in Latvia, if you don't produce something, you just resell, you have small margins, and this is a huge problem for you unless you have big scale on which you can check in, if you could say so. Another thing is you can build your own solution, basically based on recurring payments or various technologies. Build it, buy it. Basically, if user comes to your store, buys once, comes again, basically, and that's what some merchants are doing. And the third thing is kind of where we saw a potential is if merchant could implement universal one-click platform, which would keep you in charge basically of your store, of UX, the marketing, and everything what you like. Would offer low commissions, which are basically in par with what we have in the market, not like in these big players, when in some cases you pay up to 10% from the transaction. We want to have simple fee mechanisms, so it's easy to calculate, and it should be very easy. So if new features come, it just works for you, and you can focus on what you want, like marketing, having better products, or whatever. So this is basically very, very, very short version how we came to creating Clicks, solution which lets you pay with your phone number. That's why I had this question at the beginning of presentation, and we're powered by Citadel, one of the leading banks in the region, which is helping us a lot now. So very shortly, standard checkout, click checkout. Of course it differs, but how we see the difference, from 20 steps we go to a few taps. From many logins, passwords, we go to basically usually entering your phone number, or if you want to be remembered, even not that, and then just basically biometrics and you're done. And we manage and store card data, so they never go to the merchant. It always stays here. Merchant just receives that you paid, and you can receive your item. Then basically very, very, very shortly how it works. It's quite quick, so the GIF, so I'll try to explain. So basically, you go to the store, you choose what you want, no matter what the product. You choose to pay by clicks, you enter your phone number, or we have remembered you already on device. Then basically we have all the data filled. It's masked, so GDPR safe. Even if somebody is sitting next to you in public transportation, nobody sees your data. Merchant doesn't see your data until you really approve the payment. So your data doesn't go in your browser or anywhere. It has secure backend connections basically to deliver to the merchant. If you buy it, he will know who bought it and where to deliver it. We cover also the delivery part and basically everything that is necessary. The next thing basically is what we saw from many solutions all over the world, including the payment solutions, is that we are also app-based, so many extra features are coming into app, but still many users are buying in the web browsers. And we see that in many cases, the solutions just say, okay, when you want to buy, hey, now go download the app, then do all that stuff there, and then come back. So what basically we found is a good way how to help user walk the path he's used to is basically that merchant embeds our solution. Basically, he does usual checkouts, usually enters all data, one checkbox, he can store his profile. Next time, again, everything is filled, and when he's onboarding an application, it's very quick because we have most of the information. But he made the first purchase as he's used to. So basically, there's no difference to the path he's used to. So very shortly, basically, I'll try to speak when we short. So, do you have it? Come on. Okay, it's start. No, so basically, you choose clicks, you add your phone number, fill in your data, checkbox at the end, add card data. First, we use 3D Secure to confirm that it's your card, so you feel safe that nobody will use your payment data, and you're done, basically. And then in app, you can check what you bought. So if you spent 100 euros, you bought that and that, not just 100 euros, you know the items exactly you bought. So it's also very important to think about the other side, about the merchants. And we're really working very hard to make it easy for the merchants with simple integrations, which are continuously improved based on the feedback. We offer fair commissions, especially for the first ones, which are basically first ones to join our platform. We have very favorable deals to them, and we offer continuous developments, meaning if we add new functionalities, which we're going to add this year, there's nothing you can do. The maximum the merchant has to do is just sign another contract to start using this feature, nothing on the technical side. And many times when I'm speaking with people, there's kind of this elephant in the room, how is this connection with Citadel, basically building a startup within a corporation. And of course, it's not always sunshine and roses, but currently we see much more benefits than let's say, cons to our corporation. So we have a vast pool of very, very specific people knowing very, very specific things, which we can get to really quickly, get feedback, get information, their experience. We have many, many merchants with relationships already. We have hundreds of thousands of users we can talk through the Citadel. At the same time, we're a small team with a big impact. Due to this small size and quick movement, we managed to attract people with experience from all over the world. We have people in my team from also like Silicon Valley, so they all bring their own value, and we're really building this team that everybody in the team is basically something, developer, UX, sales, whatever, and business developer. So everybody can come up with ideas and they're implemented. Also, we are very quick to validate our ideas, to basically see how we can pivot to be better. And one example, like we had some ideas in end of December, we validated them in first parts of January, and basically in 1 week we're rolling out another feature functionality based on the merchant feedback. So yeah, we're quick to react, enabled being quick to react. So basically, how we see clicks, we see it as your companion. You can use various payment methods added. You see, you control all your history, and basically, we see that maybe after a while you don't need to register in all the e-coms. It's just one account you have. You go wherever you want, and with a few taps, you're able to buy things. You can control where your cards are stored, where your information flows, and enjoy other benefits, which you will probably hear at the middle of this year and the end of this year about big new features we are working on and planning to launch. So you can download clicks already now. So when we have the more merchants rolled out, we also were partnering with PaymentConf, and you could buy tickets here, and it was good choice. Also because we failed in some cases, we saw that there are various like very, very specific browsers which are limited by the companies or by the developers of the browsers, which cause some problems, so we're working on them. Many of them are fixed, some will be fixed, so that was a good learning. So yeah, download the app and be ready when we have more merchants launched. Oh, it's quite good time-wise. So thank you. I'm Eduards. Was a pleasure to speak to you. If any questions, please, now or after the talk.
Yeah. Applause for Edwards. Yes! We have some questions, but we will address just a few because I understand the second room has finished because some people walked in. Yes?
I'll be around, so just...
Yeah, no, we can ask one question because there's one question with a bajillion likes.
Very good.
Okay. What would you do in different way if started same project again?
Okay, it's a very good question. One of the, I would say, classical mistakes, I don't know how you call them, is that in the part of merchant validation, so we talked with merchants, big ones, the small ones, and most of them were very keen. With some even we signed contracts, but when it comes down to really development, like you give documentations, and they are simple, but then just this corporate ladder starts and all these footballing the emails between the people starts. So one thing is that what I would do differently is definitely spend more time on more detailed merchant validation about integrations, about features they want, what they don't want. We looked at the best examples of like, I don't know, like APIs like Cloud and other big players. And we found out that actually when you start implementing, new things come up. So we would do probably more earlier, much deeper merchant validation. Because with users, I think it was relatively easy. It's kind of free service, so you can test the solutions, the various UX versions, and if it works, it usually works, and there are no surprises. So this merchant part was very interesting. We had medium pivots basically during the project due to finding out new things.
Okay,
so I
and
hope at least somehow answered the question.
I also hope so. And we have one more question that got also a bajillion likes just now. Are you storing card details and having PCI DSS certification?
I answered the question. Yes. So yes, we do have separate section in our solution. I won't get into too many details. Unfortunately, in previous speech, the colleague had a technical colleague. Unfortunately, mine are currently working on launching a few things very shortly. But yes, it took also, that's another thing. Actually, it took, of course, a bit longer than expected. Also, all the preparation and working towards it. So we have like last steps of receiving also the official certificate and everything. But the on-site audits happen and everything. So.
Okay, let's give a round of applause for Eduards.